Hey, what's up guys and gals? It's the Tyrant here and welcome back to my weekly Q&A session. Before I go on, I just want to give a big shout out and a huge thank you to everyone, not just who submitted questions last week, but who watched in general. It means a lot to me. It did a lot better than I thought it would. I was surprised that many people viewed it, and I'm really happy about that. So if this is something that you really like, that's great because I really enjoy it too, and I'd love to keep doing this for you every week. A little side note here, as you can see, I'm not playing Halo 5 Firefight mode. This time I've decided to switch it up a little bit. I'm playing right now GTA 5 or Grand Theft Auto 5 for my PC. I've got Windows 10 on here. So it's a little bit different than usual. If it's something that you guys don't like, just let me know. I can always go back to Warzone Firefight, but I did want to try to switch things up a little bit. I usually play GTA 5 about once a week or so, just to vent, just to let off a little bit of steam. I suck at the game, so I usually put on a bunch of cheat codes and just wreak as much havoc as I possibly can. Destruction to the max. So for those of you who don't know how this works, basically what you do is you post your comment in the comment section below, or your question, I'm sorry, in the comment section below, and then I will address it in the following week's Q&A. If I don't get to your question, I'll get to that towards the end of the video of how we can resolve that and get your question out there on at least the following week's video. So let's go ahead and get started. This week's first question is from Pat CANNY. This question is, so in terms of the whole debate between old game mechanics and the new abilities, what do you think for Halo 6? And he goes on to a little story detailing how we could possibly go back to the old mechanics because Cortana can somehow take over the Mark 7 armor and they have to go back to basics. It's an interesting theory, but I will tell you, Pat, what I honestly believe is I really do like the mechanics in Halo 5. That is a definite improvement, for me at least, over Halo Reach and Halo 4. So I'd like to see the current Halo 5 mechanics, or at least most of them, make the transfer over to Halo 6. Good question. Our next question comes from Adrian Tho Jiat Yang. I do apologize if I said that wrong. His question is, what is your favorite Halo faction? Ooh, given the times we're going through in America right now, I feel like I would be prosecuted for treason if I didn't say the UNSC. I do love the UNSC. I do love seeing the struggles that it's gone through. Obviously, they went through the issue of the insurrectionists. Then they were brought to near annihilation by the Covenant, and now we're back as a galactic empire, so to speak. Not kind of empire, but you get the idea. So good question. Again, UNSC is definitely my favorite faction right now, although I will say, even though I'm not a fan of the in-game play of these guys, I do find the Forerunner faction to be extremely interesting. So excellent question. Thank you. Our next question comes from Brad Holderman. And it is, what are your favorite one-game weapons? And he's talking about weapons that have been in only one game. In other words, like the focus rifle or grenade launcher from Halo Reach. My one-time favorite weapon, for me at least, is the Halo 1 fuel rod gun. Not the fuel rod cannon that you see in later games. That's basically a Covenant equivalent to the rocket launcher, but the fuel rod gun in Halo 1. What I loved about it is that it's a mortar weapon. It feels unique. It was a nice, heavy weapon for the Covenant that didn't feel overpowered and was not exactly a counter to the rocket launcher, but still had its own purpose. I like the fact that it had a charge versus having ammunition. To me, it just made more sense due to the way the hunters were using them in the game itself. That's honestly my favorite weapon. As far as the Halo Reach ones, I did find them interesting. You know, the grenade launcher is kind of cool. The plasma repeater was sort of not really okay with that one. The focus rifle was interesting. I like that as an alternative to the beam rifle, but that's about it for me. Definitely the Halo 1 fuel rod gun is my favorite. Our next question comes from some Halo guy, and some Halo guy I'm sure you are. It says, how bad does your hand look under the glove, and what exactly happened to it? Pretty bad, in short. This came from my motorcycle accident back in 2011. I was traveling on Interstate 95. That's a major highway here on the East Coast of the United States. And it started to rain. And I was on my way to New York, and the bike slipped. You know, there wasn't a lot I could do about it. I was going over a bridge near Baltimore, Maryland, and it slipped on the highway because of one of those grooves in the road. I was going, again, over like a really, really small bridge, nothing major. And they have these little grooves in the road. I'm not really sure why. And it slipped on that. And I was going pretty fast too. So what happened was I went down and miraculously was able to stand up and walk to the side after it happened, but I hit the pavement so hard that it ripped off my glove and skinned my entire hand to the point where there's actually bone sticking out even now. So it looks pretty gross. It's a little translucent in some areas and really scarred and kind of charred looking in others. So it's not a pretty sight. But thank you for your concern. So our next question comes from Otto von Skidmark. PG site here. So his question is, do you think 343 has messed up the Forerunners? Well, I think that they've done the best that they can considering they put them in. And to me, the only mistake they really made was including the Forerunners to begin with. Prior to this, Forerunners supposed to be this big, mysterious race, ancient, and that was part of their charm, was their mystery. You never got to see them, just the tech they left behind, and I would have preferred personally to keep it that way, but had they stopped it at Halo 4, I would have been okay with it, because if that's where the series had ended, and we finally got the chance to see a Forerunner as sort of the close to the series, I would have been cool with it. But if they're going to continue on this path, I can't say that I support it, but it could be worse. So that's basically my take on the Forerunners up until this point. Excellent question, Otto. So our next question comes from a person. Well, it's good the machines haven't gotten to me yet. So his question is, what do you think the Halo franchise would have become if it stuck to the original idea of being a real-time strategy series versus a first-person shooter? This is an excellent question. So basically, he's right. Originally, Halo, when it was under Bungie's control, was supposed to be a real-time strategy game before it was ever the Halo that we know of today. It would not, to answer your question, it would not be the same phenomenon. It just wouldn't be. The part of the charm to the original Halo was the whole open world experience, as well as the graphics, while being in first-person mode, because really we hadn't seen this before. Real-time strategy games come and go. I'm sure that it would have had a fan base, but when you're going up against other franchises like StarCraft or Command & Conquer, they would really have an uphill battle. When it came to the Xbox, remember, Halo was the first launch title, or the only launch title, but the first game to come out for the thing, so there was no competition for it. It had the whole market to itself. But had it gone the RTS route, it would not be the same sensation that we'd actually see today. So excellent question, person, and thank you for bringing that up. Our next question comes from MEATY Games. Oh boy. So MEATY Games asks, do you think Halo Wars 3 will come out? Well, I'll be honest with you. Should it come out? I'm not sure. Will it come out? With the way they left Halo Wars 2, it wouldn't surprise me because it did leave it on kind of a cliffhanger. Some of those questions may be answered in expansions for Halo Wars 2. They could be answered in Halo 6. We don't know yet. Will Halo Wars 3 come out? If 343 continues on their current path, which is trying to release a Halo game as much as they can by putting it on that assembly line, somehow it just doesn't surprise me. I didn't even think a Halo Wars 2 was coming out, and that caught me off guard. So since there's already a second one, it would not surprise me at all if a third one would come out too. Good question. Good question, Meaty. That's a phrase I never thought I'd say. Our next question comes from one of my star members here, one of my good friends, Masters Elite, or Masters 1337. He is one of the CMT members that helped build the Halo SPV3 mod, so this guy definitely gets a shout out right here. Thanks for doing that, Masters. His question is, what is your favorite Halo game? What are your favorite Halo games in order? And are you counting on doing an SPV3 Legendary or Mythic guide? So I'll answer the first question first. In order from my favorites to least favorite, I'm going to leave out Halo Wars and the Spartan Strike and Assault series on this one. I don't think it's fair to compare those to the first-person shooter ones. That's a whole different thing. But in order from most favorite to least is Halo 3 and ODST. Yes, I bundle them into one game because to me it is one game. Halo Combat Evolved. Halo 5, believe it or not because of the campaign, but because of the improved mechanics and the Warzone multiplayer. Halo 4, Halo Reach, and of course at the bottom, Halo 2. Now, if you want to know why it's in that order, because I know some of those orders will take you off guard for some of the people watching this, I have two videos that justify it. One's called Halo Time Travel and Evolution, and the other, or Halo Evolution, yeah. Halo Time Travel and Evolution, and the other is my Halo 5 Drunken review. I'll put links to those 2 videos at the bottom. They are a bit long-winded, just a fair FYI, but it basically is my official ranking system for all the Halo games, or at least the ones in the FPS series. The second part to his question was, will you do an SPV3, Legendary, or Mythic guide? It's not that I don't want to, because it seems like it would be fun to play. It's just the time that I have in terms of making guides. I don't think if I did, it would come out anytime in the near future. I don't know that a lot of people would watch it. It's interesting that you bring that up, because funny thing is, the gameplay videos I've done for Halo SPV3 have been more popular on this site than both my video guides for Halo 5 Guardians and Halo Wars 2, which is funny. Will I do those? Maybe. I don't know. If I do, it's not going to be anytime in the near future. I just have to make sure that I have a fan base for it who wants to see it, a nice strong fan base. So excellent questions, Masters. And by the way, I will be playing a match with Masters in the coming week, and I'll be doing an interview with him regarding the CMT community and SPV3. So definitely stay tuned and check that out, and definitely check out Masters' channel too. He has an excellent series of content right there that's definitely worth looking at. Our next question comes from CAMRON GOODALL. And his question is, Halo Reach 2 or Halo 3 Remastered? Neither. Like I said, Halo Reach was my second least favorite game. I liked a lot of the things that they did in there, like customizing your own Spartan that worked in campaign as well as multiplayer, but I wasn't a huge fan of the story. And of course, Reach was destroyed in that game, so I'm not really sure how they would do that. Halo 3 Remastered, as I've addressed in previous videos, I don't think needs to be done because, at least in my personal opinion, Halo 3 still looks great even by today's standards. Now, again, I talked about this in another video. Personally, rather than seeing them rehash another game in terms of an anniversary edition like Halo 3, what I would love to see them do, since you did mention a sequel to Halo Reach, is to see another ODST style game. That was different, it was unique, it was interesting, it was dark. It was certainly something that I had never seen before in the Halo franchise. It had excellent music and just an overall interesting environment and premise to it. That's something I can get behind. Nice question, Cameron. Thank you. Our next question comes from CFunk99, and he asks, besides Halo, what other video games do you play? Well, that's a nice question. Thank you. Well, obviously from this video, I do play Grand Theft Auto. I think that's a fun game. I haven't played them all. The only one I've played, interestingly enough, aside from this one, is San Andreas. 4 looks interesting, and I'm hoping they actually incorporate Liberty City and Vice City into future, or maybe future expansions of this one, rather than trying to create an entirely new GTA game, entirely just because the graphics are already really good. I love the sandbox of this one. Aside from Grand Theft Auto, you may see that from time to time I go back and play some legacy games from like old Nintendo systems. I have a run here from Super Mario Brothers, the original one, where I went through all 8 worlds and not only didn't die once, but didn't even take any damage. So I love those games. Dragon Spirit back in the day was really good. Splatterhouse was probably the first survival horror game I ever played. The original one, not the new one, the one back from like 1990. In terms of genres in general, one of my favorite ones outside of Halo is definitely Resident Evil. I've been a fan since I was a kid. It's been scary. Silent Hill's scary too, but Resident Evil just had a different theme to it and a much bigger story arc and a more intriguing one. If you look on the site, I've actually got full campaign and cutscenes videos for both Resident Evil Remastered as well as Resident Evil 0, so you definitely should check them out. I plan on doing the same for Resident Evil 7, and I'll even have a review of that coming up shortly. Excellent question, CFunk99. Thank you. Our next question comes from Moria Jackson, and he or she asks, do you think that a marathon collection could happen? And that's a good question too. So for those of you who haven't been with Halo that long, Marathon was the original series made by Bungie that is sort of like Halo, but old school. This was made for the Max back in the day, and one of the first games, if not the first game, to actually have independent dual wielding. It was pretty cool. I've seen videos of it. I haven't played the game myself. I would really like to, just because of how the kind of ratings it got and how it ultimately led to Halo. Whether or not they'll do that, I'm not sure. I doubt we'll see that anytime in the near future, simply because they're so concentrated on Destiny right now, as well as Destiny 2. But with Bungie, you never know. And our final question for this week's Q&A comes from Captain SEROWIK. I want to take a second to give a real shout out to this guy, because he addressed an issue directly that I had talked about last week about, me doing guides and feeling less motivated just because I didn't feel like anyone really cared anymore. And so they weren't getting as many hits. I didn't have 343 supporting them. And so literally, I just happened to stumble across this. He started posting on Halo Waypoint the most recent guides that I started doing. And that just blew me out of the water. So a real shout out. I really do appreciate stuff like that. It's not something I see very often. So good on you, Captain. Thank you so much. And his question today is, do you have a Mythic guide for Halo 2 or Halo 5? Or do you plan on doing them if you don't already? So this is going to be a bit of a long-winded answer. I'll start with Halo 2. And the answer to that question is no. Halo 2, as I've already addressed, is my least favorite Halo game. It's something that takes time to do, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But it's not something that I'm interested in doing. It's not something that I think would really spark an interest in most of my subscribers, and it would just be tedious for me. That's not to say that I will never try a Halo 2 mission on Mythic, but even then you have to start thinking, okay, well, are we talking about Halo 2 or Halo 2 Anniversary? Because both games have different sets of skulls, and so they play very differently. So I'm not saying that I'll never do a mission on Halo 2 Mythic and then post it, but in terms of a full-fledged guide, let me tell you something. There's only one person in the world right now that I know of who's actually beaten Halo 2, the original one, not the Anniversary, but the original, on full-fledged Mythic. That means going through every mission with all skulls on and no deaths. And that is Legendary Smile. And so just out of curiosity, the one I was most curious about was Gravemind, because as you've seen in my top 25 hardest Halo missions of all time video, that ranked #1 on my list. And even Naked Eli, who's ultra pro at Halo, had a lot of trouble with that mission. As it turns out, this mission took him over 2 hours to do. That video was over 2 hours long. I'm sitting there going, I could not have the patience for that. Can you imagine getting all the way to the last battle and then actually beating it and then coming across those elites at the end and then dying a cheap death that way, maybe getting stuck by a plasma grenade or something like that? I would probably destroy things. I don't think I have the patience that Legendary Smile does. So the answer is no full guide there. Jury's still out on if I'll do any missions at all. So that's a good question. But now on to Halo 5. So, as you know, we're now, as of last night, over halfway through in terms of my Halo 5 Guardians Legendary walkthrough. So we're finally over the halfway mark in that. There are 7 missions left. Of those, 2 of them are really non-missions. They're more like talking points than anything else. And that in and of itself has taken me about 1.5 years to do. And a lot of that comes from 2 things. One is my perspective on the Halo 5 campaign as a whole, and the second comes from overall motivation, and that comes from you guys, as well as 343 and halo.bungie.org. As I mentioned in the last video, I seem to have lost a lot of support from 343. Again, I don't know why. The same thing seems to have happened with Naked Eli. I don't know if this had to do with a change in management or a change in vision from 343, or if it's something that, I did personally, or if it's something that Naked Eli did for his issues. It's never been brought up to us. It certainly could be our fault in some way, shape, or form, but it was never addressed. All we know is that we lost a lot of support from who we thought was going to be our #1 supporter. Having said that, I haven't had a lot of motivation to even do the Legendary walkthrough. Right now, I'm doing this more as a formality. And it sounds really easy to ask, will you do a Mythic walkthrough on this, or will you do a mission with using the plasma pistol or things like that? When I do a guide, I give it my all. I don't want to throw just some cheap, quick thing out there. That's what she said. For you guys just to view, just to rack up more view counts. I want you guys to have a quality walkthrough. That's why back in the old days of Bungie, I was more or less considered the go-to guy for campaign guides. And since then, of course, my competition's definitely escalated in terms of other people doing it now that it's more popular. YouTube is much more accessible. Video cards are more affordable. And so is the capture process in general. So there are more people doing it now. But at the same time, for me, those guides, because I put so much time and effort into them, these aren't things that just take hours to do. These take days, sometimes longer than that. these are things that take a significant amount of time. Now, as you've seen recently, well, for a while now, I've been posting at least 3 videos a week. I try to aim for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Sometimes they get late for one reason or another, but those are the scheduled days for me to post content. Now I've upped it to 5 videos a week. So we have the 3 regular videos, then I've got Q&A Saturdays and Sunday Fun Days. So basically, if I spend days, and I mean days, trying to work on one of these Halo guides, that means that I'm not working on other stuff. And since people tend to be prone to not watch these things anymore, they seem to be more interested in me doing other videos talking about previous Halo games or Halo games that I think will arrive in the future. It means that I'll be spending all that time creating content that no one's going to enjoy, or at least most of my subscribers aren't going to enjoy, instead of creating content that I at least feel like they're going to appreciate more. So that's not good business for me, and it doesn't make my viewers happy either. In terms of whether or not I'll do it, it really depends on whether or not I get enough people behind it, people who really want to see it. But in part, I'm hesitant because the only other person, I think maybe 2 people have done it, but I know that Legendary Smile, the same guy I mentioned earlier, has also done Mythic for Halo 5, and it just doesn't look fun. If you look at his walkthrough or his videos, he spends most of the time finding ways to get out of the map so he can just skip areas entirely. And I feel like that's the way it goes just because of the sheer number of enemies and how powerful some of them are. In Halo 4, we had a couple of instances where we did that. You know, we saw this in the mission Forerunner, where I used the Banshee to get out of the map in the second section. On the mission Composer, during the second airlock, yes, I jumped out of there just to make things a little bit easier. And some people even did it for the mission Midnight on the Trench Run. When you see my world record for the Trench Run on not just Legendary, but also Legendary All Skulls on, I had it on 100% boost the entire time from start to finish, never let up on it, and no one's ever done that before. That was not something I did in just an afternoon. I spent days running that over and over again, trying to understand the movements of everything, trying to understand the velocity of which I could approach certain obstacles and dodge others. It was tedious to do, but it was fun at the same time. Fast forward to Halo 5, and it seems like the #1 solution to get around missions isn't to even fight them. It's to get out of it, and to me, that destroys the entire integrity and purpose of Mythic. When you see me going back and doing Halo 3 or Halo 3 ODST or Halo Reach on Mythic, it was mostly just blunt force. You know, me going through and killing nearly every enemy. Yes, there were certain times where I would skip certain battles by rushing past them or things like that, but there's an element of risk involved, and you still are on the battlefield. You're not breaking any real rules. But when you're going outside of it, it stops having a point. And so if that's what Halo 5 Mythic is, I just don't see a reason to do it. That's, again, not saying that I promise that, or let me back up. That's not saying that I won't do a Halo 5 Guardians Mythic guide. But unless I can find a better way to do it and enough people that are interested, and that includes 343 Industries, Halo 4 may very well be the final Mythic guide in terms of the Tyrant reign. Like I said, I'm not counting it out yet, but right now I am not feeling very encouraged. Honestly, part of me thinks that the reason behind this and the reason for decreased view counts for walkthroughs in favor of other videos is I'm beginning to think that Halo is on the decline. That's not an attack on 343 Industries. That's basically just the way things are. Halo is now 16 years old. That's old for any franchise. And it doesn't have the same impact that it used to. When Halo originally arrived on the market, it was unique. It was something new and beautiful, just something for people to explore. It was a new way to play a first-person shooter game and just enjoy an open-world experience at the same time. 16 years later, the charm has started to wear off. It doesn't feel like it used to. And at the same time, Halo has something now that it didn't have before, and that's a significant amount of competition. When Halo Combat Evolved came out, there was no Call of Duty. There was no Titanfall. These were things that came out later. So part of me thinks that it's just on a decline. Whether or not you think it's related to 343 Industries and their style of Halo, that is about you personally, the gamer. That is on you. I really don't feel like it's my place to comment on that. I do have a whole Halo the Rise and Fall series that's 7 parts. It's on the front page of my website, so that gets a little bit more into it. Do I think it's 343 Industries' fault directly? No. I do think that Halo has moved in a different direction and they're trying to stay ahead of the curve, but there's so much else out there, and the original fans are starting to get older and find other things that they like. It just isn't what it used to be. And so that also affects my content as well and where I'll be pursuing it in the future. Again, excellent question, Captain. Again, thank you for your help last week, and I hope that answered what you were asking. So, guys and gals, what do you think of Halo? Is it on the decline, or can it come back and be stronger than ever? You can let me know in the comment section below, or feel free to hit me up on both Facebook and Twitter. And speaking of Twitter, I mentioned before that to get your questions on a video, all you have to do is ask it in the comment section below, and I'll get it to the video next week. If I miss your question for some reason, copy it and paste it in next week's video, and I'll see what I can do then. If I happen to miss it 2 weeks in a row for whatever reason, send me a tweet on Twitter. That's the fastest way to actually get in touch with me. If there's a reason behind me not including it, I will let you know. That's a rare thing to happen, by the way. But if you send me a tweet on Twitter, I will make it a high priority for the following week. So guys and gals, thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, please share it with your friends, or if you hated it, share it with them anyway just to troll the hell out of them. And also, if you like this video, you want to see more, click that subscribe button for more video game related content every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on MythicTyrant.com. Don't forget about Q&A Saturdays and also Sunday Fun Days. Thanks so much for watching, guys and gals. I hope you have an excellent weekend. I'll see you right back here next time. And as always, I'm the Tyrant, signing off.